welcome. I'm Rabbi Robin Frisch, and this is the Mazel Pups Podcast. If you're Jewish or Jewish, however you define it, and you love dogs, this is the podcast for you. Today we have two guests. We have Lisa Schechter and her dog Dunkin, who she will introduce to you. But first, I'd like to introduce Lisa. She is a fascinating woman. As with so many people that are connected to this podcast, I met her and Dunkin as well through Instagram. Back in December of 2023, Lisa sent me some pictures of Dunkin. He is a very cute Goldendoodle, and he was wearing a bandana that said, "I Wolf Israel." There were other very pro-Israel pictures of Dunkin, and I was really excited to be able to share them on the Mazel Pups Instagram account. You can still go see them. I also learned that Dunkin does a lot of really wonderful things, which you're going to hear about today, including that he is a certified therapy dog. Before I turn it over to Lisa, I just want to say that in addition to being a dog mom, she is a wife, a mom to 3 human children, and she became an accidental influencer. During COVID, she would post different pictures and then people would be curious and want to learn more. She got into blogging, all kinds of things, lifestyle, fashion, food, travel, home, family, love of Israel. She is a strong advocate for Israel. She wants people to be aware of what's going on, and she wants them to understand the situation, and she's done that in many different ways. And Dunkin has also helped her in bringing comfort and bringing meaning to lives of people going to and from Israel. Now I just want to say hi to Lisa, and she can say hello to all of you as well as introduce Dunkin.
Hi. So first of all, thank you so much, Robin, for having me and Dunkin. We're very excited to be here. Full disclosure, this is our first podcast ever. So really, thank you. It's an honor.
So Lisa, before we get started, I have 4 questions for you that I begin with all of my guests. The first one, we already know the answer, but I'll ask you. It's like Seder. I have to ask all 4. Do you currently have a dog?
I do.
Second one, you'll have something new to tell us. Can you share a fun fact or 2 about your dog?
So fun fact, Dunkin's name is Dunkin, like the donut store, because my son wanted a dog that was the color of a glazed donut.
And he got it. Shifting gears now from dogs to Judaism, what is it that you love most about Judaism?
I love the community. I love being part of the Jewish world. Wherever you go, you connect with people, no matter what your level of observance or where you're from. I find you just, you share this common thread and this connection that's undeniable, and you just meet amazing people all over.
Thank you. And what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
I love Shabbat.
Awesome.
Duncan, he actually joins us at the table many Friday nights. And I love being able to unplug and the family time. And I also really, I'll give you one more. My favorite mitzvah is Hachnasat Orchim, is welcoming guests. So Shabbat is really special for all those reasons. And it's not just a one and done holiday. We get to do it every week.
Did you grow up in a very involved Jewish home, or is that something that came later in your life?
So I grew up in a traditional Jewish home. My family was, I guess, quote unquote, modern Orthodox with the emphasis on modern. My parents actually they sent me to Jewish day school for early childhood, and then we moved and I went to public school for elementary. But we always went to synagogue on the holidays. We kept a kosher home. And when I was in 5th or 6th grade, they decided they wanted to send me back to Jewish day school. I'm really grateful that I had the background I did. So I switched and, in 7th grade, and I continued my Jewish education. And as I did, my family actually became more observant. My family actually kind of became more observant over the years through my school journey.
So you, in some ways, it sounds like, brought that to your parents and to your family.
Yes. And now they're more observant than me. But it's all good.
Now, did you go to Jewish camp growing up as well?
I did. I went to Jewish camp. I went to day camp, and then I went to Jewish sleepaway camp. I actually met my husband at one of the Jewish sleepaway camps in Wayne County, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Nice.
yeah. So camp was a big part of our, very big part of my life, and it's a big part of my kids' lives too.
Clearly, you are, as is Duncan, an ardent Zionist. Israel is very important to you and your family. Was that something you grew up with that came from your home or your school or something you came to later in life?
It's definitely a big part of who I am. My Savta, my father's mother, lived in Israel. She actually escaped Europe during World War II. She went to plant trees in Palestine, before it was officially
Hmm.
Israel back in the late 1930s. Um, and she was the only one who survived. Her family was in Lithuania, and she made a life for herself in Israel, raised my father in Israel. So my childhood, I spent, several summers going to visit her, and Israel was always a big part of my life.
And was advocating for Israel or being involved politically something that was part of your life, or did that come later?
I'd say that came later. Growing up, we always went to the Israel Day Parade, and I've always been a proud Jew,
Hmm.
and I always wore. I don't know. I've always been proud of who I am and my heritage. But I would say the advocacy came much later, really very recently.
And I was going to ask you how many times you've been to Israel. My guess is you have no clue. Is that correct? It's a lot.
When I was thinking about it, I actually was going through it with my kids, and I was like, oh, I don't know, at least a dozen. And my daughter said to me, she's like, Mom, a dozen? Like at least 20, probably 2 dozen. And we went through it, my childhood times, a teen tour, then taking back my own family, and then just 4 times in the past year. We got to 24.
Wow. And that's
So
if you didn't forget any.
yeah, assuming I didn't forget, but I am truly, truly blessed, and I can't wait to go back. I absolutely love going.
And I
And
I know that you were there on October 7th,
yes,
2023. So can you tell us where you were and what it was like that day?
sure. It was a very surreal experience. We were in the King David Hotel in Jerusalem. It was Sukkot, the last days, and we heard, kind of an alarm going off in our hotel very early in the morning. Apparently there was one even before that we didn't hear. People were knocking on the door saying everyone needs to get up and go to the bomb shelter. There's a red alert. There's a red alert. Um, my daughters were in a different room. My son was in, an adjacent room with us, and we kind of all we got up quickly, in our pajamas, and we didn't know what was going on. We're like, okay, we'll grab our phones. We don't know how long we're going to be, and we ran downstairs, and my girls were there. They saw us. They had a feeling we probably hadn't heard the first alarm. And everyone's downstairs trying to, figure out what's going on. And then we slowly started hearing bits and pieces. There was an attack, and down south, and but the news was coming in, and one of the most incredible things. It was Simchas Torah morning, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we're safe in a
Hmm.
beautiful hotel, in a bomb shelter with security. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel threat. I just felt like, uh, there was so much unknown, and it was like, whoa, like what is happening here? Um, and there were a lot of people, and I remember a group of guys were davening. Everyone, people had been in shul when they ran downstairs with it, and everyone is davening and singing and praying and dancing, and it's just this amazing dichotomy. It's so much of who we are as the Jews. And in the face of the unknown and the uncertainty, what do? We pray and we sing and we thank God. And you have that going on with the sirens. Like I said, very, very surreal.
Wow. And then how much longer were you there
So
after the
we
7th?
were there. We were there. We came home on October, I think 11th. We had a flight right after the holiday ended, but it was not on El Al, and it was canceled, and like so many others, we scrambled to, try and figure out how we would make our way home. And it kind of felt weird leaving. I knew, we didn't belong there. There's a war going on. They don't need extra people, let alone tourists. But it was a very strange experience. We run to Israel. I didn't want to run away from Israel. And so we did get out eventually via Barcelona to Montreal and then back to New Jersey. And it was fine. It was totally fine. But the scariest part is when, that initial first 24 hours calm down and you would walk outside and the streets of Jerusalem were empty. There was no one to be seen. We walked one evening to the entrance of the Mamila Mall and you could hear a pin drop. Wow. And this is, like right after Sukkot and Simchas Torah, which is one of the busiest, most joyous times of the year. There are throngs of people. You can barely make your way through. And it was myself, my husband, and one of our kids. And it was eerie. That was one of the saddest and scariest parts to me. Feeling that emptiness because, everyone was off to war or, being evacuated or figuring out how they were going to take care of their families. And we were kind of just there.
That's an amazing, very intense experience. So sometimes I feel like there's just no transition from what we talked about to where we're going to go. So I'm just going to say it because I want to turn to dogs. Yeah. Did you ever have dogs before? Did you have a dog growing up or at any other point in your life?
No, I never had a dog. This is funny, as a child, my brother and I wanted a dog. And one year we asked for a dog as our Afikomen present, one year at Passover. And our parents were like, okay, you know what? We'll go to the animal shelter. We'll see. We went to the animal shelter and we were actually rejected because my parents both worked full-time outside the house. My brother and I were in school all day. There was no one to take care of a dog full-time at home. So we were told we could have a cat instead. I'm not a cat person. And we ended up with this cat that we had for a number of years that no one particularly wanted, but they were just there. I think my parents felt bad about not adopting any animal at the time and thought the cat was better than nothing. But no, that was it. No dog growing up.
You mentioned a little bit about before your son wanting Dunkin' and the Dunkin' Donuts connection, but can you tell us a little bit, usually with families, just as you and your brother tried to convince your parents to get you a dog, usually it comes from the kids, although not always. So how exactly did Dunkin' come about to be part of your family?
Sure. So actually, my son, before he wanted a dog, he wanted a brother. I have two daughters, and then I had him. And he really wanted a brother and asked, and I explained to him, even if we had another baby, it could be a girl. And you could end up with another sister. And he's like, oh, I really don't want another sister. I just want a brother. And he said, well, can you at least get me a boy dog so I can have a brother dog? So he was young at the time, and my husband actually wanted a dog. He was very into it. And I was, okay, I don't know, other people's dogs are cute from far, but it's a lot of work. And, we were building a home, and I had a couple of fears. I said, I just don't want to have that when you walk into a house and it smells like a dog. I don't want to have that, smell of a dog. And you guys say you want it, but my husband works crazy hours and my son is busy with, his friends in school. Who's going to take care of this dog? Me. Right. And so I kind of fought them on it for a couple of years and a couple of more years. And then when my son he was 10, I finally kind of softened to the idea. Things were a little more settled at home. And I said, okay, you know what? Let's look into this. And I'm a big researcher. I love researching, and if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I want to do it right. And one of my daughters has some allergies, and she's been to friends' homes who have dogs who she would come home with crazy reactions. Her face would like turn red and her eyes would water, and it wasn't fun. So I said, if we're going to get a dog, we've got to be really respectful and find one that's not going to, create any issues for her. So we heard good things about Goldendoodles, and we knew a number of people friends in our neighborhood that had doodles from a specific breeder. So we spent time in a friend's home that had, a nice doodle, a golden doodle that we liked. And she stayed for a couple of hours and was clear, no issues. So we said, okay, we need this breeder, this generation of golden doodle, these parents. And I contacted them and we got on a wait list because any reputable dog breeder is not going to just have a dog ready when you call. So we waited a couple of months and then Duncan's litter was born and that was it.
You have to tell us about Purim of 2023 because Duncan had a fantastic costume that went with his name.
Yes, Duncan dressed up like a donut, a sprinkle donut, and they make fabulous costumes for dogs. I have to say, he's really, opened up a whole new world of fun things, fun accessories to shop for. Things I never knew. I never in a million years thought I would be looking into and buying, but it's wonderful. So yes, we dressed him up as a donut. Purim's always a big deal in our house. We love celebrating. We love mishloach manot. We got to a certain point where we decided it was, rather than making all the deliveries and missing people in the chaos of the back and forth, we would set up shop at our house by our front door and invite everyone to come and partake. So we made Duncan's Donut Shop. And we bought, lots of donuts and we had a coffee company come and we just put out, everyone could drive up and it was Duncan's Purim drive-through. And we made a whole little poem and Duncan wore the costume and was out there all morning greeting, all of our friends and family who would come over.
Did he dress up again for Purim 2024?
Oh, he did. He dressed up again for Purim 2023 and 2024, and it's kind of become a tradition in our community. People really look forward to it. So as long as he's game and we can make it happen, this is our family Purim plan.
So is he a Dunkin' Donut again in 2024?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. If the costume fits.
In addition to being fun and making Purim extra fun and making Shabbat extra special, Duncan also does a lot of good deeds with you. Obviously, Duncan would not be able to do them without you taking Duncan and making sure that Duncan could do them, but Duncan is part of it as well. So I would love to hear from you about some of the things. I know that Duncan is a therapy dog, how that came about and what he does, and other things related to that as well as unrelated.
So we realized pretty early on he really had such a sweet and gentle disposition. And he's so good with kids. He doesn't really bark a lot. He doesn't, unless someone comes to the door. And he's not jumpy. And one of my daughters volunteered at a local center for young adults with special needs called the Yachad Center. It's run by the OU. And a lot of these kids, they would talk about they had dogs or they love dogs. And she said, Mommy, I think they would really love to meet Duncan. Do you think you could bring him to the center one day? And I said, that's a great idea. I spoke to the directors. We got permission. I brought him and he was such a hit. These kids loved him so much, just petting him, playing fetch with him, cuddling with him, standing up, just having him kind of walk around and be there was really special. And when I saw that, I said, wow, you know what? I wonder what would be involved. I would love to get him certified so he could really do this on an official basis, because there are so many amazing places. Pet therapy is a very real, thing. And it's amazing what these animals are able to do. But I knew it needed to be official. So I have a friend who has a dog named Hamish. another Mazel Pup, another nice Jewish dog, and his owner had trained him many years ago. He's a bit older than Duncan. So I asked her for, I did some research. I got the info. It was still kind of, I think this was like 2020/21, like it was still COVID-ish time. And there wasn't that much going on. So I had to wait a little bit for the classes to resume, but I found someone near me through an organization called Therapy Dogs International that runs the certification program. And Duncan and I signed up for a class. We spent 8 weeks going every Sunday for 2 hours to learn different commands and scenarios and how to behave. So therapy dogs, people say, does this mean you can take him on a plane with you? I said, no. So a therapy dog, he provides therapy for others. An emotional support pet is a dog, that would be for me if I needed to take him on a plane or take him with me to the doctor, for example. So his therapy certification entitles him to go places to help others. And so what we did is we learned how to navigate different scenes that he might encounter as a therapy dog. So going to visit a hospital or a senior citizen center. And so there would be people, simulated circumstances with a wheelchair or someone on crutches or a pile of pills in the middle of a floor. And he would have to listen to commands, not touch it, know how to approach the wheelchair, stop, let the person pet him. He would have to listen to commands and how to come from 100 feet or 200 feet and a lot of it though, at the end of the day, they're still dogs. So, they may not do everything perfectly, but if they need to just have the right disposition. And usually the course goes very well. So, and at the end of the 8 weeks, there's a test that he has to pass, and then I have to take a written test and provide a whole lot of paperwork. But then once we finished, he got certified, and he has a badge. We go wherever we go. It actually has his picture and his certification with Therapy Dogs International. And it says his name, what his breed is, who his owner/handler is. When we go, he wears a special bandana. So I'll put this on with his Israel one that has the Therapy Dog certification on it. So it's really, it's fun. It's become a really big part of his life. So in addition to the Yachad Center, he goes to Friendship Circle, which is another place for that, a facility for children with special needs. It's called Lifetown Center. It's in Livingston, New Jersey, and they have a pet shop actually as part of a town that's simulated for accessibility for the special needs population. And they need dogs to volunteer in the pet shop. Every week they have different groups of kids coming through. So we try to go there about once a month. The Yachad Center is still a very big part of his life. We go there often. He's been to memory care facilities for senior citizens. He's been a guest at schools. He can also go to the library for story time. I took him to Camp Simcha, which is run by Chai Lifeline. And Camp Simcha is a very special place. It's a sleepaway summer camp for kids with cancer and other long-term illnesses. So we were able to bring him. It was really one of the most incredible special days, just seeing the joy he brought to the kids. And, he would dance with them, and he kind of has a few tricks. We can have him stand up and give you a hug. He can stand up and dance. There were kids who were wheelchair bound and they wanted more. They wanted to really cuddle with him. So we were able to lie them down in a bed and put Duncan next to him so they could properly cuddle. And there are kids there was a beautiful little girl who was blind, and she loved feeling Duncan's fur so much. So these are the types of things that he does. And I'm honestly just amazed. I never in my wildest dreams imagined I'm going to have a dog, and his activities are going to keep me busier than anything else in my family schedule. But it's a really beautiful, special thing to be able to do. I feel like he's a gift. Duncan has really been a gift to me and my family. My husband says, you're welcome, because he really pushed for him. And it's funny how things change, right? My husband and my son are the ones who wanted him so, so, so badly. My two daughters did not want anything to do with him. And they said, oh, he's gonna smell, he's gonna eat our shoes, my friends won't want to come over. And P.S., they adore him. They walk in the door, they see him, and oh, I miss you so much. And they both left for gap years in Israel. And while they were gone, they would FaceTime often and say, okay, mommy, put Duncan on. Like, I'm done. I don't need to talk to you. I just need to see him. I just miss him so much. And it's really amazing how he, has truly become like such an integral part of our family.
And I want to mention something else you do with him, which I've seen several pictures of on Instagram, connected to your love for Israel, is I've seen him on multiple occasions at an airport. He is at the airport as people are leaving for Israel to go either volunteer or bring support to people in Israel after October 7th, or as lone soldiers are coming home from time that they've spent in Israel, or other people coming back from Israel. So I would have never in a million years thought about this or knew it's something that existed. Is this part of a program or just something you started doing with Duncan? How did it come about, and what has it been like?
I guess mid-October, we all felt like everyone wanted to help and do whatever they could. And I joined, I was on a whole bunch of different WhatsApp chats, and there were lone soldiers who were, in Miluim, but living in America, and they were being called back to duty. And on one of these group chats, someone said, let's go to the airport and give them a proper send-off. And I went myself. I didn't bring him the first time. I went with a couple of friends, and it was really very beautiful and special, and they were singing and dancing, and a guy came with his guitar, and someone set up a table with snacks and drinks and Tehillim cards and all sorts of stuff. And I said, you know what? I think it would be great to bring Duncan. I think people would really enjoy it. And I have his therapy certification, so why not? So one Saturday night in late October, early November, there was a flight leaving, and I brought him. And sure enough, he was a huge hit. I put him in I put him in a t-shirt, some t-shirt I had of Israel. And subsequently we had that t-shirt me and you talked about that said, I'm Wolf Israel. And we had another one that he wears to bring the hostages home. And so we started going to send off these flights, and he actually became not just a source of comfort to the soldiers and to families who were leaving, people who were making aliyah in this, families who were just here on vacation and going back to Israel. The El Al staff actually loved him. And they found him so therapeutic. And they're like, oh my gosh, is Duncan coming back tomorrow? We want to see him. They would just have a couple of minutes to pet him and sit with him. And not even just the El Al staff, the Port Authority staff at Newark Airport actually also became friends with him. And it was actually very special. He became such a fixture at the airport. And really, we got nothing but love. We walked through the airport. I would be in a sweatshirt that said free the hostages. He'd have his t-shirt that said bring them home now. And it was a really special thing, really special to be a part of. So in that, then there were all these other incredible organizations that started sending off duffel bags of supplies to the Chayalim and to evacuees and families. And people would chip in to, bring breakfast to the El Al staff that was working overtime to help send these packages and these duffels. It got to a point with the send-offs that the airport, there was a lot going on in the airport. And I think the Port Authority had said, okay, you can come, but like no more tables and large groups of people. And it kind of, it had to phase out. But the organization, it's called BC Lev Echad, based in Bergen County, and they've sent, I don't know, tens of thousands of bags of supplies. So I got involved with them, and I would bring Duncan to the airport with breakfast for El Al and a visit with him. So we would go, I would help volunteers tag the bags, and he would be with me. We'd, drop off breakfast and coffee. And while people were checking in, or, before their, in between their security meeting and needing to work at the desk, they'd have a little bit of time with Duncan. And it was really special. And then the welcoming the soldiers home came a couple of months later. There is another incredible organization called Navut, and Navut actually helps soldiers reacclimate to their, I guess, civilian life after their army service. So they thought, the director thought, how special would it be if we could have a group of people there to welcome these soldiers back. Now, tracking back to when we were sending the soldiers off, there was one particular soldier that I met when I had Duncan with me, and he said, wow, this dog is amazing. We're going to need him when we come back from the war. Because he's like, yeah, everyone needs therapy dogs after the PTSD and to help us. And I said, really? Well, and he explained to me, he explained a little bit about it and who the organization. And so on one of these group chats, it came up that this is Navut welcoming them back. I said, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to bring Duncan to the airport. And that's how we started. We just, I would go, we posted on chats. I made friends. It would be strangers going to meet. It felt like strangers going to greet the family that, our family that we never met before. And again, there were unbelievable people that would show up with guitars to play music, with snacks, with signs, with Israeli flags, with singing and dancing. And we got a lot of the local schools involved. The yeshiva high schools would bring groups of kids. And it was really so Duncan was a very big part of it. He was pretty much a fixture at the airport whenever there was a flight landing that we could make, that we were able to. So we went a dozen times.
I just think of these people coming home. It's, as you said, like the PTSD they're going to suffer from and all the help they'll need, but just coming back to America where no one else can understand what they've been through. It's not like staying in Israel and coming back, and to just come back alone to an airport, or maybe with one of your parents standing there. It's nice to realize all these people appreciate what you've done. And that's going to be really powerful.
There was actually we got it the first time one of the first times it happened, this lone soldier, no family could come get him. His parents had recently moved. He had a sibling was away, someone was sick, he was coming. He needed not just he didn't know anyone was greeting him. He just said he needed a ride. Would anyone be able to give him a ride? And he ended up showing up to an entourage of 20 people and a dog and some snacks and, just people really happy to see him and greet him. And I've stayed in touch with a few of the Chayalim, and, I've always said if they ever need, Duncan had, I said we would go visit them. So he's hopefully going to make a few soldier visits in the near future.
Is there anything else you want to share about Duncan or your work for Israel or anything else you want to let us know?
If you have a dog and he has a sweet and calm disposition, there's so much good to be done. I really, this has been one of the most rewarding life experiences, having him and training him to become a therapy dog, and getting to really experience these amazing organizations and meet incredible people. And it's special. I would actually love, really, one day, I would love to bring Duncan to Israel. Because when I'd been on some of my trips visiting wounded soldiers or some places with, facilities with kids with special needs, actually the director of Shalva, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, they're an incredible place in Jerusalem that helps families with special needs. It means, the word Shalva means respite, and they have day programs and overnight programs. And the director, I know one of my daughters volunteered there, and he was in New York for a dinner, for an annual fundraising dinner and some meetings here. And when Duncan and I had been at the airport one morning, sending off and visiting the El Al staff, that was on his flight back. And he saw me with Duncan. He said, wow, that's a dog. That's a very special dog. He should come to Shalva. He would be amazing. I said, I would love to bring him. I just have to figure out how to get him through that 12-hour flight. And I know there were some rules about dogs traveling internationally and, quarantining. I'm working out the details, but I would absolutely love to be able to bring him to Israel one day, to go to Shalva, to visit, soldiers at Tel HaShomer. When I went there to visit the rehab center, there were dogs also visiting. And I think that would be a really, really special, that would be something very special to do. So yeah.
Well, Lisa, I won't ask how people can keep up with you because most of us don't have the energy to keep up with you, but I will ask how people can follow you and to keep up with what's going on in your life and Dunkin's.
Sure. So you can find me and Dunkin on Instagram at Lisa on Life, Lis, or my handle is my name. It's at Lisa and Schechter. And yeah, we welcome you. Would love for you to follow along as we do lots of fun stuff. And if you know anyone, any organization or person who you think could use a therapy dog or their services, please let me know. And if you're interested or have any more questions on how to get your dog certified, and any questions about the process, I'd be more than happy to answer or help you however I can.
Lisa, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to see you, to hear from you, all these great things. I feel like I've seen pictures of so many, but I didn't know the stories behind them. So I'm really excited to have learned more about you and Dunkin.
I'll tell you one more sweet story. At Camp Simcha, the Rebbitzin there, actually, she saw him and she said, wow. She said, I can see he has a neshama. This dog has a soul. And she told me something so sweet that I'd never heard before. The Hebrew word for dog is kelev, but she said kelev is ka-lev, with a heart. So this is, yes, our doggy with a heart. This was an honor and a pleasure. And thank you for all you're doing to highlight all the special dogs.
Thank you. I only wish I could be there and give them a big hug right now. But thank you both so much. Thank you, all of you, for joining us and for listening. I'm sure that you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I encourage you to come back for our next episode. Shalom.
Hello, shalom, friends. I'm Bo, one of Rabbi Robin's dogs and our original Mazel Pup. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a pause and 5-star rating, and follow us on social media. Thanks for listening.